what really does the Ankh or Aankh really mean? And to be fair and peace and blessings, this is Derric RauKhu more. And in this video, I wanted to talk about what really does the Ankh or Ankh. What does it really mean? Okay. First of all, let me go ahead and tell you that, part of the reason why I'm making this video is mainly because I've seen people, we've all seen people basically wearing the Ankh. They got it tattooed on them and all that kind of stuff, where they have a symbol, and it's really trendy. And part of what prompted this video was the fact that I was talking to this lady that I know, and basically she's real heavily, she's very religious and everything, and goes to church and all that kind of stuff, and not judging or anything, but I noticed that she had an Ankh that was tattooed on her arm. It was tattooed right there on her wrist. So, like like a lot of people, I just went ahead and I basically, inquired, hey, what is that for? Kind of trying to go ahead and see where she was, and to see if she was, aware. And the first thing she told me was, well, it's an Egyptian symbol that means life. All right. So that right there was my clue. Oh, okay. Yeah, she's not aware, because a lot of people, whenever we're talking about Kemetic spirituality or anybody who's involved in anything dealing with Kemet, we always say, oh, with ancient Egyptians or Kemetic, even if we're talking to people who aren't aware, because we're trying to spark that interest. So the fact that she went ahead and she said that, I was like, oh, okay, all right, she's doing this because it's trendy. And, like I said, she went ahead and she told me, hey, well, it's because it's a symbol for life. And I thought it was pretty cool to go ahead and get, and I was like, okay, not for the most part, like I said, not judging or anything. I just left her alone, and that was it. But as I mentioned, I see a lot of people going ahead and they'll wear the Ankh. They'll wear any symbol that they think is cool. They'll go ahead and they'll tattoo it on them, or they will, or they'll go ahead and they'll wear a piece of jewelry that has that on there. And for the most part, that is pretty much the Western way. That's how they do things, okay? The West bastardizes everything, all right? And there's a reason behind that, okay? And we as individuals who are involved in spiritual culture, involved in spiritual development, involved in higher thinking, higher magic, the whole deal, we want to go ahead and we want to do things a little bit different. We don't want to go ahead and do what everybody else is doing just because it's trendy. We actually have a purpose of doing something. And we want to know the significance of it so that it improves our life, okay? And the reason why I say that is mainly because you have to remember, we have three parts of our mind. We have the conscious part of our mind, which we use, that's our soul. This is the part that we use to make choices and decisions. We have the subconscious part of our mind, that's the habitual part of our being. It is the part of our being that we are really fighting against because of all the, negative conditionings that we have had imposed upon us, from everyone, from our family, from, the media, from, the public, teachers, whatever. This is all within our subconscious, okay? And then you have the superconscious, the divine spark. This is our God self or our higher self. This is the part we're trying to bring more into the forefront. Okay, we're trying to bring this more into the light and help us in our, improve our life. Okay, so when we have a symbol like the Ankh or a Ankh or any of these other symbols, even some of the, like the Khan symbols, any of these symbols, we want to go ahead, we want to use it for a higher purpose. And that higher purpose is to remind us of our divinity, remind us of, the fact that we are divine beings. We are gods and goddesses. That's why we tattooed in the continent, it's before slavery and all that. This is the reason why we tattooed ourselves. This is the reason why we had the brands. We didn't just have it for just ornamental purposes. It had a divine reason. It had a purpose behind it, a significance behind it. Same thing for wearing earrings and nose rings and all that. This all it all played a role in our spiritual development, okay? It wasn't just done because this is a trendy thing to do, okay? So, that being said, all right, from my perspective, I'm going to go ahead and give a little bit more, or kind of a little more in-depth understanding of, what I think the Ankh is. I don't want to say what I think, but what I've basically have discovered what the Ankh or Ankh means, all right? Just like, the young lady I was talking to, the Ankh, it means, when I first got into Kemetic Spirituality, that first thing they told me was, the Ankh, it means life, okay? The further I got into Kemetic Spirituality, the more I got into the metaphysics, that's when someone came around and it was like, hey, okay, well, that loop on the Ankh, that it corresponds to the female womb, and the T part corresponds to the male genitalia. So when they come together, it's like conception. It's like it symbolizes conception. And that's where you get life from. Okay. So I was like, okay. And I kind of, ran with that for a little bit and everything. Was like, okay, all right. But when I started dealing with my ancestors and I started really working with my spirit guides, I got a different understanding of it. This understanding, what they were telling me was that loop part refers to the fact that it refers to the physical realm, and the T section refers to the spiritual realm. Okay. Now, when I went ahead and I was, like I said, I'm going a little bit deeper and everything. This is something that I've never heard before. And this is how I know it was coming directly from, from my ancestors, from my spirit guides. They're the ones who are sharing this with me. When I went ahead and I started, I went a little bit further into what they were talking about. They were saying, okay, well, the T section, that is the part that corresponds to Osir's digit or Osir's backbone. And the interesting thing is that if you go and you look at some of the statuettes, some of the statues, you'll see wherever they have the Ankh, you'll actually see that digit column, okay? So they were talking about, and then like I said, the top part, the loop section, it dealt with the fact that this is the physical realm. It corresponds to Set. All right. Now, this is not to say that females are evil and they correspond to Set and all that nonsense like they put in Christianity and Judaism and Islam in regards to, the woman being or the woman or feminine energy being the root of evil. No, that's nonsense. Okay. That's not what we deal with in Kemetic Spirituality. Kemetic Spirituality, we talk about balance. So what they were saying, or what they're showing me, is that physical realm, okay, it corresponds to the whole, this is the ego, this is the emotional part, this is the emotional self. And that's what they're referring to when they're talking about that loop section. That T section is talking about the spiritual aspect, the spiritual nature, okay? Now, from that understanding, the middle of it, they called it AANKH. Okay, this is what came to me through my ancestors and my spirit guides. And I remember when they told me that, when they said, oh, it means, this is a Ankh. Okay, when I went ahead, I was like, okay, I've never heard that before. Well, as always, you go every time you get some, insight or anything from spirits, you got to test it. So sure enough, went and got E.A. Budge Wallace, got his hieroglyphic dictionary, looked it up, and there it was, AANKH. And that AANKH, it meant life but it also meant oath, to swear an oath. And this is what tied it back to, for me, tied it back to that whole Kemetic spirituality. It tied it back to Kongo spirituality and the whole dikenga Congo, okay, the Kongo Cross, which was used ritualistically to swear an oath on. So what my ancestors and spirit guides was telling me about the Ankh is that the reason why it became a protective symbol is because when you swore an oath to live truth, then you got the protection from both realms, from the physical and the spiritual realm, because they're working together, because you're living in harmony with all of it, with nature, the whole deal. Okay? That's my understanding of the Ankh. All right? And again, this is something that came to me through my ancestors and spirit guides. If you gotta, if you gotta beef with it, take it up with them, But I know ever since I went ahead and I came into that realization and I actually took that on and was like, that makes sense, and started living it, my life got a lot better. And, because now I'm able to actually apply it, and it gives me a better understanding that when I'm dealing with this physical realm, that I got the spiritual realm right on the other side. All I got to do is go ahead. I can, talk to my ancestors, talk to my spirit guides. And that's what that symbol is reminding me of now. Okay. So understand that. Okay. Hopefully that goes ahead and that gives you a better understanding of what the Ankh means and how to use it to empower your life. Okay? If you got any questions, you got any comments or so, shoot me a line. All right? Until next time, thanks for liking, sharing, subscribing. Heads up, poo. Peace.